the Primitive Patterns Podcast. It's time to live your mystery. All right, boys, how we doing?
Fan-fucking-tastic.
Electric, buddy.
Not bad. Not bad. So we got fantastic, electric, and not bad. It's because once again, we chirped you about your hair, about putting it down.
No, I'm just fucking stressing hard today, man.
Yeah, gloomy day. Luker, you mentioned that you had kind of an idea for direction as to where you were wanting this podcast to go. So I'll kind of hand the mic off to you and you can get her started.
Already got my mic, buddy. No need to hand it off.
Beauty.
Yeah, so
Take
for
a
the
sip, pick it
podcast
up.
today, I thought it'd be cool to talk about. We've been trainers now for like 5 years, in person and online. So obviously people come to you initially with the idea that they need workouts, and they generally do. They need to get in better shape physically. But we want to talk about what are the things that they don't realize they need that actually move the needle even more than seeing you twice a week in the gym or following your online workout program. So like as an example, Josh, what's something with your clients that you've noticed really moves the needle more than just their 2 sessions a week or following something online?
I mean, I think we could all come at this from different angles. I was actually having this conversation with a client yesterday, and like I think you and Jake are more open to willing, and you've gotten good results with people when it comes to nutrition, right? So you could consider nutrition being one of them. Like, yeah, you're with me 2 hours a week working out. That's great. That's not nothing. But if that's the only thing that changes in your life, you're probably not going to see a dramatic change in your health or whatever. For me personally, like I have a tough time dealing with helping people with nutrition. And I was saying this to a client because like when somebody's in the gym with me, if they train with me 3 days a week, like I have full control over what they do when they're in the gym with me. Whereas like I can't stand helping people with nutrition because like,
Okay, so what's the thing that you feel moves the needle for them other than the workouts? Like that was the question.
well, I
It's not
think
nutrition.
yeah. I think the thing that moves the needle for most people, it's not that it's not the workouts, it's what doing those workouts on a consistent basis provides them in terms of like routine and energy. Like that's what I would say. It's not like besides the workouts, it's more so because of the workouts. Maybe they make better decisions that day. They get into a routine of working out, and people need that routine to feel like healthy and happy and regulated. So I just think it's more so what the workouts provide to them as opposed to like outside of the workouts what they need, but you may have a different
Yeah, like I'll kind of counter act that a little bit and just talk about how I think it's more about people doing the right things outside of the gym and earning their workouts and not feeling like their workouts earned them something unhealthy. So for example, like I think maybe some people will get a personal trainer, do one-on-one training, or just go to the gym and have a workout because it makes them feel better about the bad decisions that they're making outside of the gym. And if that's the case scenario that somebody is living by, then I don't think their workouts are going to do shit for them.
well, you should just stop coaching them if that's the case. Like if somebody just is like, oh, I'm going to work out so I can booze my face off or whatever, like just don't.
I know, but the reality is like as a trainer and somebody who works with people online in person is like, you are going to come across scenarios like that. So yeah, okay, you could just like gas them and just not train them anymore. But if you're a good trainer, I think you're going to try to find ways to actually help that person, because the habit of thinking that your workouts are going to counterbalance the things that you're doing outside of the gym and it's just going to be a way to feel good. I think the workouts aren't going to do anything for you. It's more about like the saying, like earn your workout, right? So do the right things outside of the gym. And the one thing that I would say 2 things, because working out and general nutrition, I think are 2 concepts that like everybody understands. Maybe they don't actually do the right things surrounding them, but they're concepts that everybody understands they need to do. For me, 2 of the biggest keys and oftentimes blocks to people actually becoming healthier and bettering their performance are sleep and alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
I think people's quality of sleep is just such a detriment to them. And whether it's because of habits that they're doing late at night, how they're starting their day, maybe just a lifelong building of patterns that kind of affect their sleep, alcohol consumption, whatever. Not getting proper sleep, I think, is going to hinder your ability to make the right decisions outside of the gym, but also perform your best when you're at the gym working out. And then obviously alcohol consumption, it's such a common place in our society for people to just accept the fact that people will drink alcohol, and whether it's like a weekly thing or for some people it's like a nightly thing that they're doing, even small amounts of it, you kind of become immune to the feelings the next day when you're doing it consistently. But yeah, I think alcohol consumption and sleep are like two of the biggest for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to something you said, and like, do you actually think though that a lot of people actually understand like, oh, basic nutrition and movement are like two of the biggest rocks? Because I had a client this week who, by all accounts, you would look at and think to some capacity they kind of got their shit figured out for the most part. This client grabbed their love handles, looked at me and went, how do I get rid of these? And I just went, eat better and move more. Like, that's literally what I said. And I didn't even like, I just said it so bluntly. And I think that's an issue, not an issue, but something that I see myself is I lack compassion for people. And this goes back to why I can't help people with nutrition. If somebody is doing everything in their power to help themselves out and they're coming to me and they genuinely have a concern about an issue that like they're genuinely trying to figure something out and they can't do it, I do have compassion. I have empathy and I try to help them out as best I can. But like when you look at me and you grab your love handle and you go, how do I get rid of this? It's like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, hold their hand and be like, oh, well, like you could try this, that, or the other. Like, dude.
Okay, I think the thing is though, like when you're like, oh, but do you actually think that people understand the movement and nutrition are the two things that are going to push the needle?
Does this person understand it? Like, and they're just completely like, just.
I think you're getting
it. A magic answer, or do they not understand it?
I think you're getting it confused with. I think a lot of people don't understand how to navigate nutrition and movement properly, but I feel like 99% of people understand. And if they tell you that they don't, they're either lying or some absurdly uninformed person about human health. I think 99% of people understand that movement and nutrition are vitally important to your health. Now, they may not understand how to navigate it properly, and they think they're doing. I've worked with a lot of people that like think they're doing the right thing when it comes to eating healthy and exercising. But when you actually take a deep dive into lifestyle factors, little nuances in the way that they're eating and how they might be affecting their overall movement towards their goals, it's like, yeah, they think they're doing the right things, but there's like little tiny things that are just moving the needle the other way.
Yeah, but I also think though that, you know, if you put a gun to somebody's head, you're like, grab your fucking grocery cart, go into the store and fill your cart with the healthiest foods you can. Everybody is going to be like, okay, I'm going to grab fruits, veggies, some eggs, maybe some chicken, some fish, whatever. They're going to come back with a healthy cart. I think like 90, if somebody has a gun to your head and you can't fill your cart with healthy foods, like I don't see many people that can't do that.
All right, let's get back into
hang on.
Things that can actually help people though. Cause I know for me, where I've gotten a ton of results with people and where I feel it makes a huge impact is having people actually understand what stress is and how to not let that stack. Because as an example, I know this, and for me personally, you can probably resonate with it, almost anyone. When you are feeling pent up and when you're not feeling that you're regulated and doing things to feel calm, it is so easy to grab nicotine, have a drink, eat something that's unhealthy. For most people that I've been able to get really good results with in person or online, it comes down to having them understand stress and have daily things that help them down regulate. Because when you're in that pent up state, you can know what a healthy choice is. You can know what a healthy meal is. You can know what a good movement system is, but you don't have the capacity to actually make that choice. And I think for most people, they know, but they're not in a place where making that choice is default and literally easy because they're so up here all the time.
All right, so give an example of that, because like if we have listeners on this podcast, a lot of them are probably, you know, maybe there's some health professionals, but chances are it's probably not. So like what, you know, you say when I try to get people to understand stress, what are like the first one or two things, maybe it's one thing that you try to get them to understand? Like,
well, here's just a simple thing. So I'm not going to get into sleep, but we all know like good night's sleep is critical for managing a host of things within ourselves. But here's an example of someone that I literally had do this last week. They said they were always having snacky, shitty food around 5:36, right when they got home from work. Kids are running around screaming. They're just pent up. Boom, they're reaching for something. And I just said, when you get home, go up to your room, set a 10-minute timer, 6-second inhale, 6-second exhale, and then start being a mom. And just that small difference was enough of a change to go from here to here and then not reach for that snack. So it's not that they didn't want to make the healthy choice or know what healthy is. They were just so wound up that grabbing for that, it was like just that fucking primitive shitty part of your brain that's like, need quick, whatever, I'm so stressed. So little things like that can move rocks for people in a huge way. Because I think like you were talking about, yeah, obviously most people understand what it takes to eat healthy, understand good movement, but their life is so chaotic and they feel so wound up that making those choices is really difficult.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, like think about how tempting it is to believe that there's a quick fix. Like I think people, you're right, and with the gun to the head scenario, they would make that proper decision, like 9 times out of 10. But then there's also like that belief in the back of everyone's mind where like, fuck, maybe there is a quicker solution, a quicker fix. Like maybe I can take a pill and get rid of my love handles. Maybe I can, you know, do what Dr. Oz says and lose 15 pounds in a month. Like the reality is you see this all the time in physio. People, a lot of the reason people even come to see a physiotherapist or a chiro or their family doctor is for a quick fix. They might think that they have the right intentions. They probably do have the right intentions, but in the back of their head, they are looking for a quick fix to feel better ASAP, like in one session, to feel as though their solution has been presented to them and their problem is fixed. And that's not really the reality, obviously. To go back, I wanted to play devil's advocate to the earning your workout sentiment. I agree to some extent, but I think also for some people that could create a really unrealistic expectation that they have to do every single thing throughout their week perfectly in order to
I agree
literally earn their workout. But that's, again, I think it's super unrealistic. And I think what you can the message you can kind of get across to somebody to actually help them out psychologically, and almost like it can feel kind of liberating sometimes to let them know that, hey, you don't actually have to feel good. Like you can be battling aches and pains. You can have a shit night's sleep and still come into the workout and get something out of it. We'll just modify. Like we've all been there where we've had to modify something for somebody who's dealing with some bullshit injury, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I would agree with you as long as it's not like chronic.
Exactly.
If they're coming in every week and they're like, hey, I slept like shit, I'm hurting.
In a chronic pattern.
Yeah. But like, what are you gonna say? Yeah, you know, sorry, you're not ticking the boxes outside of the gym. So like, I can't give you a high quality 1 hour of exercise session. Like, no, you're never gonna do that. Like them coming in and seeing you is always gonna be better than them not.
There's a time and place is what I'm getting at. And I just think if you do it consistently, if it's bad if they have it, if it's a week by week thing, but if it's like 2 or 3 times total and you're delivering the message that, hey, you didn't really earn it, so I don't know, that to me, that kind of can deliver this like fragility message. And I think the entire goal of training is to empower them and make them feel more resilient, whether it's physically or psychologically. And so I think if they have like a couple one-off times where they had a shitty week, heavy psychological week, or shit sleep or poor nutrition, it's good to like let them know, hey, like, do you notice how you feel worse and you don't feel as though you're up for a workout to the same extent you would be if you had a great week? But if you're kind of delivering that message every single week that, hey, you didn't do this and this right, you didn't do these 2 things out of 1,000 decisions in your week right, therefore I don't know if like I don't know if you've lived up to your potential, so this workout might not be worth it. Not saying that's what you're saying, but what you're saying can be taken that far.
Or some people, like, it is really tough to control. Like for some people, you can control your sleep. You know, like you're like, if I stop smoking weed and eating snacks before bed, I will sleep better. There's some people that do everything in their power to sleep better, at least to the best of their knowledge. And like, it's just, it's almost uncontrollable for them. So it's almost like setting these parameters of like, you have to do A, B, and C, or you have to feel a certain way. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, right? Like, I know that that's not exactly what you're saying, but setting those parameters of like, if you don't do this, you can't have the workout, or if you feel this way. Like I trained somebody this week. She texted me the day before and was like, I'm on the floor cramping up from period cramps. Like I can't come in. She texted me like 1 hour before her workout. Then yesterday she came in the day after. And a lot of people, that's fucking massive on Instagram right now, like trying to tell girls how to train around their period. She hit a PR on her trap bar deadlift. the day after she was on the floor cramping, and in between sets, I'm not making this shit up, in between sets, she was like not fetal position, but like she was feeling the cramps, and she hit an all-time PR on the trap bar deadlift and walked out of the gym feeling incredible. And I was like, whether you listen to your Whoop or you listen to your menstrual cycle guy on Instagram, which that's another topic of discussion, but if you listen to that stuff and you decide, oh, I'm not going to get my workout in because I'm not in like an optimal state, you could be missing out on an opportunity to make yourself feel a lot better. And like,
Well, fucking podcasts in general, I think what started as a good thing has just become pretty brutal. Like I can't count on fucking both hands and both feet how many times a week people say something they heard in a podcast.
Yeah.
Just everything is now like, it has to be optimized. You have to do this. You have to do that. Only be in the sauna for this amount of time. Only go in the cold this amount of time. Take your fucking shit in the morning. Like, it's just becoming too much for people.
yeah, like shut the fuck up. Do what makes you feel good.
That actually adds more stress to the equation too.
Way more.
Things that that used to be autonomous or like subconscious or automatic, now they're like, holy shit, I need to think about every little piece of this puzzle. But you don't.
You don't.
Just go in the sauna when you feel like you need to get out, get out.
And also too, we've all traveled and you've been to countries where people don't have access to a lot of information. And holy fuck, health is a pretty natural process. It's like your body wants to be healthy.
Yeah, it's unnatural to not be healthy.
Exactly. So thinking that you have to do 1,000,001 things is crazy. Like I think literally just what we've been talking about today, if people eat real food, sleep a decent amount every night, don't drink alcohol late into the evening, and move their body every week, you're pretty well going to be in a good spot. Could always be better, but like that's going to put you in a killer spot.
Yeah, you don't need to be optimal. Even like when you look at research for especially sleep and alcohol, there's no optimal zone.
Optimal doesn't exist in any fucking realm out there. Optimal is not a thing. Like, try to tell me one thing when it comes to health and fitness that you're like, that is the optimal way to do something. Like, you could say 8 hours of sleep and falling asleep, with the sun or waking up with the sun or whatever, that's optimal. But like, is it really optimal for every single person? Probably not.
Well, especially when you take lifestyle factors into consideration,
Context.
it's definitely not. So like,
there's no optimal diet. There's no optimal way to move. There's no optimal way to train an athlete. Like, I don't think optimal exists. So
no,
we should.
But I think as a high
delete
quality
that word from fucking this industry.
When you say something like that though, you got to back it up. So like I know what you mean, but like explain that optimal doesn't exist.
I just don't think there's an optimal way to do anything. I heard it was actually on a podcast earlier this week, but it was Jordan Shallow, the RX Radio.
Muscle Doc legend.
Yeah, beauty. And he made a good point. He's like, you're never trying to optimize something. You're trying to maximize something. And you see people in the gym, like if you're that fucking nerd of a coach that has the dowel on their back and the 3-point drill when you're trying to like teach people how to hinge, or like you see somebody's squat pattern and it may not be exactly what you see in a textbook. Like, you're not trying to say, all right, let's optimize your squat. Like, people solve movement problems differently. Everybody does. So like, we're just trying to maximize the results that you get out of your training. Because you can't optimize the results you get out. What does that even mean? What does optimizing your results mean? If you're trying to optimize yourself, maybe like start sticking a needle up your ass and just get as jacked as you can if your goal is to build muscle. I guess that would be optimizing muscle growth. But like, nobody's really trying to do that. You're just trying to maximize the results for people in every single aspect, whether that's nutrition, movement, stress, sleep, because nobody's going to be perfect. Everybody says like perfect doesn't exist. Well, if perfect doesn't exist, then neither does optimal, because in my opinion, they're one and the same.
It's synonymous, yeah.
So like, you're just trying to maximize the results that you get for yourself, or if you're a coach, that you get for your clients. And the way that you do that is just by trying to be 1% better every single day, not trying to get 100% better day in, day out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Optimal is a suboptimal word in the training physio world.
But I heard...
Is it functional though?
Dysfunctional word too.
That's functionally optimal.
Yeah, I'm all about functionally optimal
And it goes
stimulus.
for in physio, not to bring it to a different lens.
Fucking nerd.
Kind of the same, where it's like
Tate's a
people come
physio.
people come in
Nerd.
expecting an exact fucking diagnosis. Like, I need to know specifically what's wrong with me. But and if you're being an honest physio or chiro or trainer, you don't always actually know. Like, our clinical tests that we have are not the most specific things in the world. For some injuries they are, but for most they're not. And so a good analogy I like to use is like, try fishing with a net instead of a fishing rod. Like maybe with a fishing rod, you can get something more specific. You get one fish, one factor that's related to the injury or the problem. But if you fish with a net, you'll be able to catch a bunch of different factors and influence a bunch of different factors all at once.
Yeah, I like that. That's sick. And that's honestly that you can relate that to anything in the health and fitness industry. You know, like if you're not sleeping well and you're like, oh, it's because you do this. It's like, no, it's probably because you had a coffee at 3, you had a nicotine pouch in your lip at 7, and you were on your phone in bed.
And again, that sounds so chaotic where it's like, it doesn't need to be optimal. Like everything is influenced all at the same time. Sounds even more stressful, but it's actually quite liberating when you're like, okay, there's 1,000,001 things that influence this. Therefore, I can just plug and play, like treat it like trial and error. Like, let's try tweaking my sleep for a bit, see if that works. Didn't work? Okay, let's move on to the next thing and just see what works instead of worrying about, okay, sleep has to be like this, diet has to be like this, I have to have 1 or less beers per week. Like, you don't have to be so neurotic about it. You can just use trial and error.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think that was a pretty functionally optimal podcast, boys.
One more thing, because I think it's fucking hilarious, and not saying this would work for anyone, but a good example of just like outliers and just like crazy things that work for crazy people. Ryan Garcia, who just beat Devin Haney or whatever his name is and destroyed him, was literally drinking every single night.
Allegedly.
No. Like he was saying he was going out and partying every night, and he put on the best performance of his life. Not recommending you do that, but we're just saying life's different for everyone.
Yeah. No one size fits all approach. Fuck it. Be as healthy as you can. Have a good time. We're on a floating rock.
You're going to die
through space.
Shit doesn't matter anyway.
Soon. You know, if you want to fucking not deadlift and you want to whatever.
Nothing matters. Nothing matters because everything matters.
That's it. Signing off. Peace. The Primitive Patterns Podcast. It's time to live your mystery.